Be me, Felix, 28. Living in a damp apartment in the Pacific Northwest. Freelance video editor. Mostly indie documentaries and wedding videos. Spending 10 hours a day staring at timelines. Color grading footage of birds or crying brides. Ignoring the outside world. I just want to do my work, get paid, and exist in peace. But apparently my mere existence in a shared space is a problem. 2 weeks ago, I tore my meniscus playing pickup basketball. Went up for a rebound. Came down wrong. Heard a pop that sounded like celery snapping. Now, I wear this massive, heavy-hinged DonJoy knee brace. It is black and metal and makes a loud clicking noise when I walk. Doctor told me to stay off it. Insurance charged me $400 just for the brace. I have to do physical therapy telehealth calls twice a week. My mom calls me every day to ask if I am eating enough calcium. She acts like my leg is going to fall off. Anyway, my buddy Grant invites a group of us to his uncle's cabin, up in the Cascade Mountains. Long weekend trip. Supposed to be 6 of us. Grant, his new girlfriend Zoe, me, 2 other guys from our friend group, Quentin, who just eats and sleeps, and Noel. Noel is a good guy, but he is exhausting. Noel is the kind of guy who reads one self-help book and makes it his entire personality. Noel wants to mediate everything. Noel asks people how their heart space is feeling. And then there is Zoe's best friend, Agnes. Agnes is a nightmare from the absolute second she steps out of Zoe's Subaru in my driveway. Thursday morning. Rain is drizzling. I am standing on my porch with my duffel bag. Leaning on my good leg, Agnes gets out of the car. She is wearing an oversized, thrifted cardigan that probably cost $300. She has a messy bun held up by a literal wooden chopstick. She is carrying a massive, insulated mason jar. It is filled with some murky green sludge. What is that? Quentin asks from the back seat. It is vibrational matcha, Agnes says. She does not look at Quentin. She looks at my knee brace. That looks incredibly restrictive, she says. It keeps my knee together, I say. The body knows how to heal itself if you just listen to it, she says. I stare at her. I look at Grant. Grant looks at the steering wheel. I drag my duffel bag to the trunk. Noel gets out to help me. Felix, Noel says softly. Let me take the bag, man, he says. I got it, Noel, I say. No, Felix. You are carrying physical weight and emotional weight right now with the injury, Noel says. Noel, it is just a bag with my hoodies and some Tupperware, I reply. Noel sighs like I am missing the point. We pile into the car. It is cramped. My knee brace is jammed against the back of Agnes's seat. We drive for 2 hours. Agnes complains about the radio the entire time. Grant puts on a classic rock station. Agnes says the guitars are too aggressive for the morning hours. She asks Grant to play an acoustic folk playlist. It sounds like a guy whispering over a single banjo string. I put my forehead against the cold window. We stop at a roadside diner halfway up the mountain. It is a greasy spoon place. Laminated menus. Smells like bleach and old frying oil. We sit in a red vinyl booth. The waitress is a tired woman named Helen. Helen asks what we want to drink. Agnes asks if the water is ethically sourced. Helen just stares at her with dead eyes. Honey, it comes from the tap, Helen says. Agnes visibly recoils. I will just have hot water with a slice of lemon, Agnes says. And do you know what kind of oil the fries are cooked in? She asks. Canola, Helen says. Agnes looks at Zoe like Helen just threatened her family. I cannot put that into my vessel, Agnes whispers loudly. We are in a crowded diner. People at the next table are looking at us. I order a club sandwich and shrink into the booth. Noel leans across the table. Agnes, your boundaries around food are really beautiful, Noel says. Thank you, Noel, she replies. It is just hard being the only one awake in a sleeping world, she says. I bite my tongue so hard I taste pennies. Noel tries to pay for the whole table. His card declines. He laughs awkwardly and says his bank must be protecting him from a fraudulent charge. Grant just pays the bill. We get back in the car. We finally reach the cabin. It is massive. Huge A-frame with wood-paneled walls. Open concept living area. Stone fireplace. Massive kitchen with a quartz island. We bring all the bags inside. I limp over to the dining table and drop my heavy backpack. My backpack has my MacBook and my hard drives. I have a deadline on Monday for a 2-hour documentary cut. I need to render the whole thing this weekend. Agnes walks into the living room. She drops her vintage leather bag on the rug. She looks at the giant flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. She looks at the stone fireplace. This layout is aggressively patriarchal, she announces. Quentin is eating a bag of pretzels. What does that mean? Quentin asks with his mouth full. The TV is the focal point of the room, she says. Instead of the hearth, she adds. It disrupts the divine feminine flow of the space, she continues. It is just a TV, Agnes, Grant says quietly. Grant, you would not understand, because you benefit from the arrangement, Agnes says. Zoe gently touches Grant's arm. Grant shuts his mouth. I just roll my eyes and drag my bag to the downstairs bedroom. The plan was always for me to stay behind during the big hike. The rest of them were supposed to do a 2-day overnight trek up a nearby ridge. My doctor told me not to walk more than I have to. So I am staying at the cabin, elevating my leg, working on my client video. First night, we have dinner together. My mom made me bring a heavy glass casserole dish full of baked ziti. She wrapped it in tin foil and put it in a thermal bag. I heat it up in the oven. The kitchen smells amazing. Cheese and garlic and tomato sauce. I put the hot dish on a cork mat on the island. I start handing out plates. Agnes looks at the baked ziti. Is there dairy in that? She asks. Yes, it is mostly cheese, I say. Dairy causes inflammation, she says. I cannot eat pain, she adds. Okay, I say. Nobody is making you eat it, I tell her. Noelle stands up. Felix, we do not need to be defensive, Noelle says. I am not defensive, Noelle. I am just serving pasta, I reply. I hear you, Felix, Noelle says, holding his hands up like he is calming a wild horse. I hear your frustration, he adds. But Agnes is just voicing her dietary truth, he says. Okay, I say again. I sit down and eat my ziti. Agnes makes a bowl of plain lentils she brought in a glass jar. She eats them one by one while sighing heavily. The next morning is the hike. Everyone is packing their frame bags. Grant is checking the weather on his phone. It is cloudy but supposed to clear up. Agnes walks into the living room wearing velvet sweatpants. She is not holding a backpack. All right, let us load up, Grant says. I am actually staying here, Agnes announces. Grant stops zipping his bag. What do you mean? Grant asks. We paid for the wilderness permits, Agnes, he reminds her. The concept of conquering nature is rooted in colonial conquest, Agnes says. She crosses her arms. And furthermore, walking uphill for 10 miles is a microaggression against my body's natural rest cycle, she says. Grant looks at Zoe. Zoe looks at the floor. Agnes, we planned this for 3 months, Grant says, his voice tight. Noel steps between them. Grant, we need to honor her pivot, Noel says. She checked in with her body, and her body said no, he adds. We cannot force her to walk if her spirit is stationary, he concludes. Grant looks like he wants to break a hiking pole over his knee. Fine, Grant says. Whatever, he adds. Zoe gives Agnes a hug. They leave. Grant, Noelle, Quentin, and Zoe drive off to the trailhead. It is just me and Agnes, in this massive silent cabin, for the next 48 hours. I do not think it will be a problem. I go to the large dining table. I set up my workstation. I plug in my MacBook. I plug in the 2 heavy external hard drives. I arrange my mousepad. I pull my gray hoodie over my head. I put on my Sony noise-canceling headphones. I start color grading the documentary. It is just footage of herons standing in a swamp. I am a quiet roommate. I do not play music out loud. I clean up my mugs. I figure we will just ignore each other. I am so wrong. Agnes does not want to ignore me. She wants an audience. About 2 hours after the others leave, I get hungry. I unstrap the Velcro on my knee brace slightly to relieve the pressure. I hobble into the huge kitchen. The quartz island is cold under my hands. I pull out the groceries I bought with my own money. A loaf of artisanal sourdough bread from a bakery near my apartment. A plastic container of thick-cut smoked turkey. A block of pepper jack cheese. I lay everything out on the wooden cutting board. I get a butter knife. I start assembling my sandwich. I am moving slow because my knee is throbbing. Agnes walks into the kitchen. She has been in the living room aggressively burning a bundle of sage. The whole house smells like a dusty campfire. She was waving the smoke around the TV to cleanse Grant's masculine energy. She sits down on a tall wooden stool at the island. She puts her elbows on the quartz. She rests her chin in her hands. She stares at me. I ignore her. I put a slice of cheese on the bread. Are you going to make me one? She asks. Her tone is dripping with absolute entitlement. I stop moving the knife. I look up at her. No, I say. I am just making lunch for myself, I tell her. Your groceries are on the bottom shelf of the fridge, I add. Agnes scoffs. It is a loud theatrical scoff. She throws her hands up in the air. Wow, she says. Just wow, she repeats. The absolute unchecked privilege of you standing there, she says. Hoarding resources, she accuses. Refusing to do the bare minimum of providing sustenance for a woman in your shared ecosystem, she says. I just stare at her. Do you realize how deep your internalized misogyny goes? She asks. You expect me to perform the emotional labor of asking you for food, she says, and then you deny me, she adds. I stand there holding a piece of smoked turkey. I try to understand the absolute word salad she just threw at me. You did not ask me to make you food, I say slowly. You just sat there, I point out. And we are not married, I remind her. Make your own sandwich, I say. I put the top piece of bread on. I put the sandwich on a paper plate. I grab my glass of water. I hobble back to the dining table. I sit down heavily. I put my headphones back on. Even through the active noise cancellation, I can hear her. I hear the muffled sounds of her slamming the heavy oak cabinet doors. I hear her muttering the phrase, toxic individualism. I ignore it. I eat my sandwich. I go back to the herons in the swamp. An hour passes. My throat is dry. I take off the headphones. I stand up. My knee clicks loudly. I walk back into the kitchen to refill my water glass. I look at the counter. My plastic container of smoked turkey is sitting out. The lid is completely off. She has taken the rest of the turkey. She ate half of it. The other half is just sitting on a napkin on the counter, getting warm and spoiling in the kitchen air. My bread bag is torn open. My pepper jack cheese has a huge bite taken directly out of the block. She did not even slice it. Agnes is sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone. Hey, I say. My voice is shaking a little bit. Did you eat my turkey? I ask. She does not look up from her screen. It is caloric reparations, she says flatly. I blink. What? I say. You are taking up too much energetic space in this house, she says. She scrolls with her thumb. So I redistributed your resources to balance the power dynamic, she explains. I realize right then that she is not just annoying. She is genuinely unhinged. She uses the language of therapy and social justice purely to justify doing whatever she wants. She just wanted a sandwich and did not want to make it. I look at the bite mark in the block of cheese. I throw the spoiled turkey in the trash. I fold the top of the bread bag. I put the cheese in a Ziploc. I decide the best course of action is absolute stony silence. I will not engage. I will not argue. I will just be a ghost. I go back to my computer. This was the worst thing I could have possibly done. The rest of the day, I say nothing. I work until midnight. I sleep in the downstairs room. My knee aches all night. The next morning, I wake up early. Friday morning. I have to finish the render today. I pull on my gray sweatpants over my knee brace. I walk out into the living room. I stop dead in my tracks. Agnes has completely taken over the entire space. She has spread dozens of tarot cards all over the dining table. She has giant purple amethyst crystals holding down the corners of the cards. She has podcasting equipment everywhere. A microphone on a boom arm. A massive ring light on a tripod. Wires running across the floor. And she has pushed my workstation. My MacBook is shoved all the way to the very edge of the table. It is hanging off the wood by 2 inches. My external hard drives are stacked precariously on top of each other. And my charger is unplugged. The cord is just lying on the floor. The ring light is plugged into my wall outlet. My laptop screen is black. I walk over to the table. My heart is beating very fast. I tap the space bar on my laptop. The screen lights up. It shows a red battery icon. It is dead. The overnight render failed. Excuse me, I say. My voice is completely deadpan. You unplugged my computer, I tell her. It was rendering a massive file, I add. Agnes looks at me from the couch. She is holding a mug of hot water. She gives me a sickeningly sweet, condescending smile. I needed the outlet, Felix, she says. Your digital capitalism is really stifling my creative flow today, she explains. I am doing a live stream about decentering male presence in domestic spaces, she announces. And you hovering over me is honestly triggering, she says. I need you to go to your room, she demands. I stare at my dead laptop. Hours of rendering progress completely gone. The client is expecting a draft link by tomorrow morning. I am going to have to call the documentary director. I am going to have to explain this. I might have to give them a discount out of my own pocket. My rent is due in a week. No, I say. I walk over to the wall. I unplug her massive ring light. I pick the ring light up by the metal stand. I move it to the floor near the couch. I pick up my thick white Apple charger. I plug it back into the wall. I pull my MacBook back to the center of the table. I sit down in my wooden chair. My knee brace clunks against the table leg. Agnes gasps loudly. She drops her mug of hot water on the rug. It spills everywhere. She clutches her chest with both hands as if I just punched her. That is literal violence, she shrieks. You are committing physical violence against my boundaries, she screams. You are invading my safe space, she cries. I do not look away from my black screen, waiting for it to boot up. This is the dining room, I reply. I live here right now too, I tell her. If you want a safe space, go to your bedroom, I add. I slide my noise-canceling headphones over my ears. I turn the volume all the way up. I put on a playlist of rain sounds just to drown out her voice. For the next 4 hours, she tries everything to break my focus. She paces back and forth right behind my chair. I can see her shadow moving on my screen. She plays an abrasive podcast on a Bluetooth speaker. It is two people yelling about how modern men are parasites. She turns it to maximum volume. She places the speaker literally 2 feet from my head on the dining table. I just keep my headphones on. I refuse to look at her. She purposely bumps into the back of my chair every time she walks past to go to the kitchen. She bumps it hard enough to shake my monitor. I do not flinch. Around 1 in the afternoon, the smell hits me. It is thick and heavy and smells like dirt and old pennies. I look over into the kitchen. She has boiled a large pot of water on the gas stove. She dumped an entire glass bottle of cheap, pungent patchouli essential oil into the boiling water. The steam is rising up and filling the entire main floor. My eyes literally start watering. My throat feels tight. I pull my hoodie up over my nose. I keep clicking my mouse. By late afternoon, she is shaking with rage that I am ignoring her. I have a telehealth appointment at 3:30. My physical therapist needs to see the swelling on my knee. I have to do it on my phone because my laptop is busy rendering again. I hobble into the hallway bathroom. I unstrap the heavy metal Donjoy brace. It takes a minute because the Velcro is tough. I leave the brace resting on my dining chair. I go into the bathroom and lock the door. I prop my phone up on the sink. I log into the telehealth portal. The doctor pops up on the screen. His name is Dr. Ming Chen. Hi, Felix. How is the knee feeling? Dr. Ming Chen asks. It is okay, just a little stiff, I say. Suddenly, I hear a massive crashing sound from the living room. Then Agnes starts screaming. She is not screaming words, just a high-pitched wail. Dr. 2. Ming Chen looks alarmed. Felix, are you safe right now? Dr. Ming Chen asks. Is someone hurt? He adds. No, Dr. Ming Chen, my roommate is just having a moment, I say. I am sweating. I feel totally humiliated. I need you to bend the knee for me, Felix, Dr. Ming Chen says. I try to bend it. It hurts. Agnes starts banging on the bathroom door. Your energy is poisoning this house, she yells through the wood. You are a toxic presence, she screams. Dr. Ming Chen is staring at the screen in pure shock. Felix, we can reschedule if you are in a dangerous situation, he says. No, please. I just need the clearance for work next week, I beg him. We rush through the appointment. I hang up the call. I wrap a towel around my bare knee just to keep it warm. I unlock the bathroom door. I walk out into the hallway. I am limping badly without the brace. I walk over to the dining table. My chair is empty. My huge, heavy metal knee brace is gone. I look around the floor. I look under the table. Nothing. Agnes is sitting on the couch with a smug look on her face. She is pretending to read a paperback book. Where is my brace? I ask. My voice is low. I do not know what you are talking about. She lies smoothly. She turns a page of the book. Maybe your toxic energy manifested it away? She smirks. I take a deep breath. My bare knee is throbbing with every heartbeat. Agnes, I literally cannot walk properly without it, I say. I need the brace, I insist. Give it back, I demand. She shuts the book. She glares at me. You need to learn that your physical comfort does not supersede my emotional safety, she snaps. Seeing your medical equipment in the communal area is triggering to my ableism trauma, she explains. I cleanse the space of it, she claims. I feel a hot spike of actual fury in my chest. I look around the room. I see my heavy metal insulated water bottle on the counter. I grab it. It is full of water and weighs like 3 pounds. I hold it in my right hand. I turn toward her. I do not raise it. I do not threaten her, but I limp aggressively toward the couch. I step heavily on my bad leg. I stop 3 feet away from her. I stare directly into her eyes. I slam the heavy metal water bottle down onto the wooden coffee table. Bang! It makes a massive sound. You have 10 seconds to tell me where my brace is, I say. My voice is not loud. It is completely flat. She screams. She throws her hands over her face. She points wildly toward the kitchen. The pantry, she shrieks. It is in the pantry, she cries. You are threatening my life, she wails. You are a violent abuser, she sobs. I turn around. I limp into the kitchen. I open the tall wooden pantry door. My brace is shoved on the bottom shelf behind a giant bag of flour. It is covered in white dust. I pull it out. I wipe it off with a paper towel. I strap it back onto my leg. I pull the Velcro tight. I walk back to the dining table. I sit down. I put my headphones on. I look at the screen. Agnes is standing by the sliding glass door to the back deck. She is breathing heavily. She is pointing a finger at me. I cannot be in the same structure as you, she yells. I take one headphone off. Okay, I say. Then go outside, I tell her. I am shutting down the Wi-Fi, she announces. Your digital umbilical cord is being cut, she proclaims. The router is in the living room, but the main breaker box for the house is outside. It is inside a small, insulated utility shed attached to the back deck. Grant had explicitly warned everyone about that shed when we arrived. He told us the latch on the inside was completely rusted and faulty. He said if you close the door all the way from the inside, it will jam. He said never to go in there and shut the door. I look at her. Grant told us the latch is broken, I say. I am just trying to state a fact. Do not try to control my movements, she snaps. Do not gaslight me about hardware, she retorts. She opens the sliding glass door. The cold mountain air rushes into the cabin. It is raining lightly now. She stomps out onto the wooden deck. She marches over to the little utility shed. She opens the thin wooden door. She steps inside. She grabs the handle. I am plunging you into darkness, she yells. She slams the door shut behind her. I hear a very distinct, sharp, metallic sound. Click. It is the sound of a rusted latch falling completely into place. I sit there for 5 seconds. The Wi-Fi router on the TV stand stays lit green. The power does not go out. She does not know which switch to flip. A minute goes by. Then I hear the thud. She hits the inside of the shed door. Thud. Then the rattling of the doorknob. Rattle, rattle, rattle. She is trying to open it. It is completely jammed. I take off my headphones. I stand up. I walk over to the sliding glass door. I look out at the shed. It is raining harder now. The shed is totally weather-sealed, but it has no windows. I can hear her muffled voice through the wood. Open the door, she yells. The handle is stuck, she calls. I open the sliding glass door and stand on the threshold. I cannot open it from the outside, I call out. It is locked from the inside, I shout. Grant said it was broken, I explain. You have to pull the metal pin up and push, I instruct. She kicks the door. Stop explaining things to me, she screams. Just open it, she demands. I literally cannot, I say. You jammed the latch, I tell her. Try pulling the little metal tab toward you, I advise. Do not tell me how to use my hands, she yells back. This is intentional, she accuses. You trapped me out here, she cries. You are a sociopath, she screams. I blink the rain out of my eyes. I look at the shed. I look at the trees. I step back inside the cabin. I slide the glass door shut. I lock it. I walk into the kitchen. I turn on the gas stove. I fill a small kettle with water. I am going to make a cup of peppermint tea. I find a clean ceramic mug in the cabinet. I put the tea bag in. The water boils. I pour the water. I take my hot mug of tea. I walk over to the couch. I pick up the paperback book she was pretending to read. It is a book about crystal healing. I sit down on the couch. I sip my tea. I listen to the faint, rhythmic pounding coming from the back deck. Thump, thump, thump. She is kicking the door. She has her phone with her, so she is not in any real danger. I assume she will figure out the metal tab eventually. I am not going out in the rain on a torn meniscus to try and pry a door open while she screams at me. 2 hours pass. The pounding stops. Then it starts again. I finish my tea. I go back to my computer. The render finishes. A pop-up says export complete. I drag the massive file into the shared Dropbox folder for the client. I watch the blue progress bar slowly fill up. My job is done. I feel a massive wave of relief. I lean back in my chair. At around 4 in the afternoon, I hear tires on the gravel driveway. The front door handle rattles. The door bursts open. Grant, Noelle, Zoe, and Quentin walk in. They are completely soaked to the bone. They are covered in mud. Zoe looks miserable. Grant looks exhausted. The trail washed out completely, Grant says, dropping his heavy wet bag on the floor. Mudslide about 4 miles up, he adds. We had to turn back, he explains. Where is Agnes? Zoe asks, wiping rain off her face. I point my thumb toward the back deck. She is in the breaker box shed, I say. Noelle frowns. Why is she in the shed, Felix? Noelle asks. She wanted to turn off the Wi-Fi because my digital capitalism was triggering her, I say. She slammed the door and the latch broke, I add. Grant's eyes go wide. She is in the shed, Grant yells. I told everyone the latch is broken, he says. Grant runs through the living room, leaving muddy footprints on the rug. He throws open the sliding glass door. He runs out into the rain. Zoe and Noelle follow him. Quentin just stands in the kitchen and starts eating crackers out of a box. I watch through the glass. Grant tries to pull the shed door. It is stuck tight. He has to go to the side of the house. He finds a metal crowbar under the porch. He wedges the crowbar into the door frame. He yanks it hard. Wood splinters. The door pops open. Agnes falls out onto the wet deck. She is hyperventilating. She is covered in dust and cobwebs. Her messy bun chopstick has fallen out. Her hair is everywhere. Zoe rushes forward and hugs her. They all come inside. Agnes is shivering. She points a shaking finger directly at me. He trapped me out here, she screams. Her voice echoes off the high wooden ceiling. Grant stops taking off his wet boots. He looks at me. Felix, what the hell, Grant says. I did not touch her, I say. I am sitting perfectly still in my chair. He told me to go outside. Agnes sobs loudly into Zoe's shoulder. He chased me with a weapon, she cries. He forced me into the shed and locked me in, she wails. He held me hostage, she sobs. The room goes completely dead silent. Noelle steps forward. His face is very serious. Felix, Noelle says softly, this is a safe space to admit harm, he begins. If you acted out of your trauma and restricted her physical autonomy, we need to process that, he continues. I stare at Noelle. I want to throw my laptop out the window. Noelle, shut up, I say. I look at Grant. I point up at the ceiling corner in the living room. There is a small black circle mounted on the wood. It is a Google Nest indoor camera. Grant installed it last year because the cabin got broken into during the winter. It points directly at the sliding glass door and the kitchen. Grant, I say calmly. Pull up the camera footage on your phone, I request. Agnes stops sobbing instantly. She freezes. She looks up at the ceiling. She looks at the camera. She swallows hard. Grant pulls his phone out of his wet pocket. He opens the app. He scrubs back 2 hours. We all stand there in silence. The only sound is the rain hitting the roof. Grant presses play. The audio is crystal clear. We hear my voice. Grant told us the latch is broken. We hear me say. We hear her voice. Do not gaslight me about hardware, we hear her say. We watch her stomp outside. We watch her pull the door shut. We hear the loud click. We hear her yelling. Do not tell me how to use my hands. We hear her scream. The video ends. Grant locks his phone. He slowly puts it back into his pocket. He looks at Agnes. Zoe slowly takes her arms away from Agnes. Zoe steps back. Agnes looks around the room. She smooths her sweater down. The energetic truth of the situation is that I felt trapped, Agnes says quietly. And feelings are valid data points, she adds. Noelle nods slightly. She makes a good point about emotional reality, Noelle whispers. Grant turns to Noelle. Noelle, if you say one more word, I am going to make you walk home, Grant says. Grant is not yelling. His voice is terrifyingly quiet. He looks at Agnes. Pack your bags, Grant says. What? Agnes says. I am driving you to the Greyhound station in town, Grant says. You are not staying here, he tells her. You tried to ruin his life over a sandwich and a router, he says. Agnes looks at Zoe for support. Zoe looks at the floor. Agnes, are you going to let him uphold this patriarchal expulsion? Agnes asks. Agnes, just pack your stuff, Zoe says quietly. Agnes spends 20 minutes aggressively throwing her crystals into her leather bag. She walks out the front door. She does not look at me. Grant tells me he will be back in an hour. He tells Noelle to clean up the muddy footprints. Grant and Agnes leave. Quentin goes to sleep in the upstairs room. Noelle gets a mop from the kitchen. He is mopping the floor. He pauses. He looks at me. Felix, I know she lied, Noelle says. But do you think maybe your silent presence was a form of emotional withholding that triggered her flight response? He asks. I look at Noelle. I close my laptop screen. Noelle, I am going to my room, I say. If you knock on my door, I will call the police, I warn. I hobble down the hall. I lock my door. I lie down on the bed. I listen to the rain. The rest of the weekend is incredibly peaceful. We eat the rest of the groceries. We play a board game. Quentin eats a whole box of graham crackers. Sunday afternoon, we pack up the cars. We drive back to the city. The car ride is very quiet. I get back to my damp apartment. I take off my knee brace. I throw my duffel bag on the floor. My mom calls me. I tell her the ZD was good. I do not tell her about the hostage situation. I check my bank account. The client paid the invoice. Everything is fine. A week later, Zoe texts me a link. It is a TikTok video. Agnes has 200 followers. The video is Agnes sitting in her bedroom in front of a ring light. She is drinking out of the mason jar. She looks solemnly into the camera. A lot of you have been asking why I have been quiet on here, she says. Nobody has been asking. The comments are entirely bots. I recently survived a domestic hostage situation, she says. I was trapped in an isolated location by a very toxic masculine presence, she continues. I am still processing the trauma of my confinement, she adds. But I am holding space for my healing, she says. She holds up a crystal to the lens. The video ends. She has never mentioned the security footage once. She blocked me on Instagram. She blocked Grant on everything. Zoe stopped talking to her completely. I toss my phone onto the mattress. I drop my keys on the counter. The apartment is completely silent. The rent is paid. The fridge is full. I open a fresh bag of coffee beans. It smells amazing.